Hello, everybody. This is Dread from Miss Valley Entertainment News. Welcome. We are here like a neon billboard, bringing you the news. Sometimes before I even know what the news is myself. Look, I saw this video title a minute ago, and I immediately booted up my recording software, and we're ready to go. I have not watched this. I have not listened to this. I trust the source, Estelden here, and once again, original video will be linked down below. Click on it, go watch it, enjoy it. But this here is a video called Huge Bioware Leak, Dragon Age Origins Remake, Dreadwolf, and Mass Effect 5. Sounds like this is going to cover a lot. I'm excited. Let's get into this.
Who remembers Bioware? They used to be the big, respected role-playing game studio.
That they did.
They're pretty much seen as a joke.
That's true.
They're incompetent, they're
Anthem.
laughed at, and if we're being honest with ourselves, it feels like any day now Papa EA is going to go in there and shut them down.
Sure.
Despite all of that, there has been a bit of a leak. It is a 4chan leak, essentially meaning there's no real source for this. There is some supposed evidence which we'll take a look at, but take this somewhat with a grain of salt. However, I still think it's a lot of fun because the leak, it's realistic. It isn't the case of an obvious fanboy just putting a wish list in there and it seems totally unrealistic. And even if the leak itself isn't genuine, I honestly would think that the guesses here wouldn't be far off. So I'm going to treat the leak as maybe a 50-50. Maybe this could be the case, but we'll see how things go.
So no guarantees, there's no proof that any of this is true, but sometimes we cover leaks because they could be true and they're at least interesting to talk about. Take it with a couple of grains of salt, but just what I'm reading here, this is extremely interesting. So let's see Estelden's take on this and listen to him bring us the news, and I'll react to it.
Over time, but we'll check this out. Now, it reads Dragon Age Origins Remake in the works at Bioware.
Now, my thought on that is that could be really, really cool. Updating it with maybe a new engine, with new updated graphics, and some other small tweaks could be a very, very good thing. We've heard rumors in the past about possibly Dragon Age games and some other games from BioWare being re-released with assumed updates to them happening before such release. So although some people will see this as a money grab, for others, this is a way to give back to the fans who like, hey, we understand that, not everybody wants to go back to this game, even though it was dearly loved because it is so dated now in its gameplay and its look. And there's a lot of people, myself included, who want to do this. I haven't done it yet. Play Dragon Age Origins with mods. I do plan on doing that at some point, which help out a lot, apparently. But this is interesting. This is interesting. This could very well be true. I'd be interested in it. At the same time, they could completely ruin it, take all the soul, the life out of it, and make it a lifeless husk. People don't like it when I bring up Starfield, so I won't. We'll just leave it as a lifeless husk and move on.
I guess you could say evidence for this, that being a little bit paper thin there, is really this screenshot where we can see Dragon Age Origins. Horrible title, but that's what they're calling this supposed
concept
remake
art
of Dragon Age Origins. If we look at the screenshot itself, it's almost self-aware in saying, oh, please don't leak me, and yet it's leaked anyway. It's got confidential in red there in the top left corner, and then down the bottom it says test concept art, not for public showing. So basically everything on it is saying don't leak me, but it's happened anyway. I honestly think that supports it maybe not being real because of how many words on it are saying don't leak. That's bad. Now the logo here, that one is a little bit odd because it looks extremely simple. If we compare it to the original Dragon Age Origins, it looks like there's a bit
out a lot
going on there. You'd think if they're remaking this, at least the Dragon Age logo would maybe be the same or similar, but it's really, really simplified. Although that being said, the Dreadwolf logo of the 4th Dragon Age we're supposedly getting, that looks kind of weird as well. So maybe that's not a red flag. I think it looks overall okay. When I very first saw it, my inkling was that it was maybe real. It was just looking at it in a bit more detail where I thought, I'm maybe not sure. And you can see the character.
It's a test concept art. I don't know how much work they really put into it. It was just, hey, here's a thought. Like if they were gonna release this, actually release it fully to the public, this image, let alone the game, they would probably, make this much better looking than it is. So I'm not sure that means it's fake, but I'm also not sure that means it's real.
Characters here on the right as well. It all looks okay, but I guess in the era of AI art and things, it's very possible that this was just cobbled together, but we'll treat it as if it's real for now. And if we jump back to reading through the leak, we'll start with the Dragon Age Origins remake. So that's what we're getting. Re-Origins, supposedly. And again, I'm not sure about that title. I don't think that's going to excite anyone. It is supposedly very early in development, and you're feeling like
I think that would be a working title more than the actual title.
They're kind of missing the mark there as well. Like, if they're going to do this, to feel like, oh, it's going to be 3, 4, 5 years off, who knows? That feels like it's almost going to be too late. Like, if this was coming out next year, just in time for people who really enjoyed Baldur's Gate 3, and now they're going to get something along somewhat similar lines, not as in-depth, and this is a pretty old game now, 2009, but it was very much built as a spiritual successor to the older Baldur's Gate games. I think some people would have been quite excited. It may even have brought in a somewhat new audience, but given
Dragon Age Origins, if you don't know, was an excellent game for its time. I mean, it came out 2 years before Skyrim, so the Skyrim model of the immersive open world RPG with first person combat, magic a one-hand sword, and the other thing just wasn't there at the time. But Dragon Age Origin wasn't your typical top-down game either. I mean, it had for its time, immersive campfire scenes where you would rest and you beat your campfire with all of your companions, not just the ones you're allowed to adventure with or you choose to adventure with, but the other ones who hang out in your camp as well. You go have conversations with them and interact with them, give them gifts to try to improve your favor, advance storylines with them, and do all these things, as well as there being very many cutscenes and things in the game itself. Like, it was... I don't want to say it was, something that changed the gaming industry, but for a certain degree, it did. It was groundbreaking. It was groundbreaking in what it was, and it appealed to people massively. They flocked to that game, and people still swear by that game. As do I. It was a great, great story in a great, great setting with great characters. And the gameplay for the time was fine. It was fine for the time. 2009. There's nothing wrong with it at all. So if you were into fantasy games and stuff, that was the kind of game you would have been playing back in 2009. It was huge.
But it's years and years away. By the time it releases, it may just not have a great audience, because by then, Dragon Age Dreadwolf, you assume, would have come out, and I don't think that's going to be a huge success. So the Dragon Age IP may not be in such a great place when this is ready to release. That being said, I mean,
Dragon Age Inquisitions was a great story. Again, in a great setting. The voice acting was good. The characters were entertaining. There was so much about it that was really good, but it suffered from getting bogged down along the way and just getting lost in areas where you feel you had to clear out a whole area and you didn't give an F anymore, kind of thing. You just wanted to move on and advance the story and not have to do this part and this part sometimes. That was its real issue. But it was like 2014 game, was it? 2014? No, 2018? Oh, yeah, I don't even remember anymore. It's been a while. It's been a while since it came out, and it did really well. I think it won some awards. It got nominated for awards for sure. Did it win awards? I don't remember. I think it might have. I think it might have got RPG of the year it came out. I think. Don't quote me on that because I can't recall. I didn't go look that up because I just hopped right into this. But Inquisition was a good enough game, and it sold well enough and did well enough that there would have been hype from that for the next Dragon Age game. Absolutely. And people who followed the story know that Solus, one of the big villains from Dragon Age Inquisition, is going to be one of your big villains in the Dragon Age Dreadwolf. I mean, Dreadwolf, it's named after his character, basically. So people are excited to see a continuation of that story, with some of the same characters showing up in it, even though your character will be a brand new character, as they all are in Dragon Age games. But yeah, for sure, the development cycle of Dreadwolf and the amount of times they changed things because people rebelled against the shit they were coming out with or saying they were going to come out with, they had to just completely scrap it and restart so many freaking times. So much interference from EA, so many loot boxes, it was so many different ideas that were just terrible, terrible ideas, that they had to back away from, that we're not sure they know how to make a good game anymore. Let's be honest. That's the issue now. I think there are still plenty of fans of the Dragon Age franchise. Just most of them are very cautious and hesitant about what's going to come out now.
I mean, in the past, I used to just not like remakes because I think, so we're just going to get a graphic enhancement of an old game instead of a brand new one from a team. It feels like we're just missing out so you can make a cheap cash grab. And that, to some extent, is
that way.
True.
Sure.
But BioWare have just been so utterly useless for such a long time that I'd honestly almost just prefer this remake than something like Dreadwolf, which I feel I'm just going to be disappointed by. Mass Effect 4, that's supposedly coming one day in what, a decade? Who really cares? At least if we got the...
Wow. Mass Effect 4. Game is in pre-alpha. Poster's guess is a 2030 release. Still 6 years away. Only Destroy ending will be considered canon. Okay, from the last game. New N7 protagonist. Rex, Lyra, and Garrus will be back. Leviathans and Geth will be the villains. In case he doesn't, I'm sure he's going to cover this part, but he's not reading it right now. He's just kind of talking, and then so am I. We both apologize.
Origins remake, there might still be that decent gameplay, and maybe the most promising thing is it says it's mostly a one-for-one remake of the original, like Dead Space. The Dead Space remake was really fun, and the interesting thing there is it had been so long since I'd played the original Dead Space that it actually just felt like a new game for me, something similar to, say, Resident Evil 4.
It's not necessarily a bad thing.
It also came out this year, that remake. And I'm pretty much fine with this, because there might have been a day long ago where I would have thought, oh, why can't you put new content into the Origins remake? I want to see more, not just all of the old same content. Do more than just upgrade the graphics. But because BioWare are so incompetent these days, I really don't want them to touch the content. I just know anything new they add, it's just going to be dull.
Not wrong.
At worst, it's going to be political messaging. They're going to shove agendas and things in there, and maybe there was some of that in the original Origins. I can't really remember, but it definitely wouldn't have been as bad as whatever those guys would do now. It seems to be all those devs care about, and I can't imagine that anyone competent who just wants to make a good game would even work at BioWare. It's probably just going to ruin your reputation these days. It does mention improved game.
But yet people still work at Bethesda, so Estelden, I mean, what the fuck's up with that? I mean, Bethesda is the loser company of loser companies right now. At least BioWare's got a shot to pull this out with the next game. I think it's a really slim shot, but it's a shot.
Play and branching decision story paths for stuff that already existed in the original. Now, that kind of is new content then. I mean, it's not a one-for-one remake if they're...
So if Mass Effect 4 is in pre-alpha, and they're guessing at 2030, and Dragon Age Origins remake is very early in development, so they're talking after 2030 then. Because pre-alpha has to be more advanced than very early in development, right? Yeah. This is the problem with BioWare. They finally figure out, well, people have been wanting us to make a Dragon Age Origins type game. What if we give them Dragon Age Origins again? We can make some money off it, but we'll upgrade it, so that it looks and, plays a little better and stuff. And it'll be new for a lot of people too. Maybe draw people into the franchise. I'm like, what a great decision, BioWare. What a great decision. It would have been a great decision if it was coming out this year. Not 2034. just a bunch of big bloated company. They cannot make a decision. Even when they make a good decision, it's so far too late that it's useless.
There's new decisions that you can potentially make if that's what it's talking about. So I don't know what that exactly refers to. I guess the improved gameplay, though, I'd like to see them take some inspiration from Larian, who designed their games for PC first. And that results in a nice interface. It's easy to navigate. The problem with the original Dragon Age Origins, as well as some other RPGs, like certainly Oblivion, Skyrim at the time, is they were very consoleized. They were designed specifically for consoles. And
What? Dragon Age Origins was designed for consoles? Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa. I don't think that's right. Let's take a look at this here. Okay. So it did come out on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 and Mac OS X as well as Windows. Was there anything on here that's going to tell me it was made for consoles? Like, I know it came out on consoles, but I don't plot. No. Development, right? 180 people worked on the game. Full-scale production began 3 years after initial development. Blah, 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 blah. Spiritual successor to Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter's Night, which are PC games. Real-time tactical combat. Switch to the Eclipse engine. Slow down development. Yeah. Yep. The 12 different origin stories. Yep. Game's final version features 68,260 lines of dialogue. Cross between the high fantasy of Tolkien and the low fantasy of George Martin. Goal was a dark heroic fantasy. So Origins is a single-player only game. They described it as a social experience, considering the narrative and its variety of paths as an integral part of the gameplay. The characters a player meets, items they collect, and quests they receive and complete may be different, leading to a completely different experience. The ways a player explores the world and discovers new areas as an exploration narrative. They hoped each player would collaborate to expand upon their knowledge of the world. They built a community site as an online social environment for players to communicate, where players could share stats and automatically generate screenshots with the community. And that was on PC. Okay. While the game was originally intended for PC, a console version was announced in 2008. Prior to the announcement, they suggested the entire franchise has a console future. They wanted to bring the game, though, to a console to introduce it to a wider audience. The game's lead designer considered creating the console's version of the interface a challenge, as they had to convert the long and complex quick bar for the PC version to a more streamlined interface, using the same actions with only few buttons presses. To that end, the team decided to map 6 different actions together and allow players to customize the arrangement. Also, the console version does not allow the top-down view in the PC version. They pushed the PC launch back so it could be simultaneous with the PlayStation and stuff. Yeah, so no, Estelden, you're wrong. It was designed for PC. There was different designs made for the console version. If you played on console, your UI and the way you did things was different than the PC version, according to Wikipedia and according to the game's designers themselves. So, no, it wasn't a game that was some clunky interfaces and stuff because it was designed for console. That is not correct. Sorry. False news.
That meant the UI was often very clunky on PC. Many people download mods to get it out of that. Easier in the
Had nothing to do with it. Had nothing to do with it. Those were two different UIs.
Bethesda games than it would be in something like Dragon Age Origins. So I hope the improved gameplay means a better interface, especially on PC, and maybe not having to focus on console first means they can make some...
They didn't concentrate on console first. It was all PC first, actually. Estelden, maybe you want to check your facts, my friend. A simple Google search on Wikipedia got me facts on that one that dispute what you just said. I love you, Estelden, but make sure you get your facts right.
General gameplay improvements with everything else, the movement, maybe even the combat to some degree as well. That's pretty much the remake rumor. You've got the title, you've got a little bit of information early in development, and of course this screenshot. So take for that what you will, whether you...
So that's our news there. As our news here, don't forget, like I always say, people, 1,000,000% of people who visit this site and watch these videos don't actually subscribe to the channel. Consider subscribing to the channel, ringing the bell for notifications. You will get notified for hopefully every video I put out. So you can come and watch them and share in this great community. You could be part of the 1,000,000,000% who will eventually, probably, maybe, hopefully be subscribed to my channel. Thank you so much for your views. Let's move on.
You think it is real or not, but there is actually some more information. So if it is real, it's obviously either a current or a former Bioware employee, and you never know, someone could have got laid off and they're feeling disgruntled, so they put this
laid off around Christmas.
Hopefully
Terrible.
They don't get found out and put in jail, because I like these leaks. Up here we've got Dragon Age Dreadwolf. So this is Dragon Age 4, the supposed next game from Bioware that is coming out, and it mentions game production is very advanced, mostly missing textures. Makes sense. This has been in development for a long time now. This is from the Anthem team, and that came out in, 2018?
Oh boy, Anthem!
2019
Woohoo!
At the latest. And sure, they supported it a little bit with content, but they moved on pretty quickly. So this will have something like, right now, 5 or so years of dev time.
Yeah, but they remade the game about 7 times during that time because they couldn't get it right.
Possibly more if they were also working on it a little bit prior to Anthem coming out. So it's a big budget game. They've had lots and lots of hours, lots and lots of staff on this. So it pretty much has to succeed if the studio's going to remain in a healthy state. And it also mentions currently scheduled for Q2 2025. That is very believable as well. A lot of people, including myself, thought...
Well, they're supposed to have a big reveal in June of 2024, which you would assume will have probably an announcement with it. An announcement then that it's coming out a year later? I guess that's possible. Yeah, it's possible. I was hoping for late 2024 or early 2025, but it could be.
Thought this was definitely coming out this year. It seemed like this has been in development for ages. Surely it is coming. However, the announcement at the end of last year, where they basically said, hey guys, we've got some news. We're going to give you news in a couple of months. We're going to give you an announcement. Actually announcing the announcement, as we see, that just had the feeling, the inkling behind it that this game is not coming in 2024. They're just going to do a big presentation. Right. We'll probably get some news throughout the year, but it's not coming this calendar year. Let's be real. And it mentions here that Bioware needs the game to sell dozens of millions of copies and impress audiences, which is why it is taking so long.
Oh yeah, they do.
Now,
that's true.
If that really is the case, this has got to be the end of Bioware, because there is no way that Dragon Age Dreadwolf is going to sell dozens of millions of copies. Baldur's Gate 3...
I wouldn't say there's no way. I wouldn't say there's no way. You know, it's a big number, yes, but I still wouldn't say no way.
I think it may have sold something like 25 million copies, which is a huge success. It
wasn't even a AAA company. They didn't even do that much marketing. If, and it's a big if, but if Dragon Age Dreadwolf actually hits the gameplay on the head, doesn't push too much, I mean, there's always going to be some. There's always going to be some from Bioware. Doesn't push too many social messages. It just allows the game to stand on its own and speak for itself. It has a really great game with some really great characters and really great gameplay. We know the world's great already. If they don't F it up, and they massively make a marketing push, and they manage to impress people enough that people aren't turned off, there is a chance they could hit the numbers they want. Remember, this is a AAA company. Still, Bioware. It's a AAA company backed by EA. It's all guns blazing for Bioware at this point. As you see here in this leak, they know it. It is all guns blazing for Bioware. It is, we ain't going home from this one. We're either winning or we're dying. That's it. So yeah, I expect a huge marketing push. Huge. Multiple millions of dollars spent on marketing.
Puts it in the top echelons of video game sales. Like, it's in the top probably 50 selling video games of all time, somewhere around there. That is enormous. It's a juggernaut. The idea that this game, in a floundering IP from a developer that is well past its peak, that it's...
But floundering IP isn't really that fair. Again, their last game in this IP was Dragon Age Inquisition, that won awards, sold a shitload, and did very well, and had people very, very interested in the next game. It's featuring the main villain from the Dragon Age Inquisition that people desperately want to see the continuation of the story with, because many people actually had this villain as their companion and got betrayed by him in Inquisition. And it was a big fucking shock for people. People romanced this character and then had him turn on them and betray the entire world to put it in grave danger. And people want to see the continuation of that. This is not a floundering IP, Estelden. It's a floundering company behind them. That's the difference. And they have a chance to get out of their floundering by doing well with this. So let's not say it's a floundering IP. That is clearly not the case. Okay? The last time this IP sold, it did well. It's not a floundering IP.
It's going to push these numbers. This is only going to happen if it's like Witcher 3 levels of quality in terms of being a good game. It can appeal to the mainstream. It's got cool characters. They're quotable. They look nice. Everything's kind of got to come together. And I am not seeing that from Bioware. I don't really know who the talent is there these days, but I assume most people worth their salt have well and truly moved on. So this seems like it's going to be the final nail in the coffin. And I wouldn't...
And I'm going to say, like, I'm hesitant about this game as well. I'm not saying it's going to take off. I'm not going to say it's going to hit all the right notes. I'm not saying it's going to sell great. I'm not saying it's going to play great. I don't know. It hasn't come out. I don't know anything really about the game yet, except for I know the IP stands on its own. Okay? It is one of the more successful RPG IPs of all time. The IP is not the problem. Please don't say it is, because it's not.
Wouldn't be surprised if the feeling from, say, EA is, hey, they've already spent money on this game, we haven't shut them down yet, but basically, if it's not some huge surprise, some huge success that we weren't expecting, they are gone. They kind of have another studio like that, Respawn Entertainment, where they made the Titanfall games. They really didn't sell well, but then they had a surprise hit with Apex Legends, and you kind of got the feeling it saved the studio. I don't really care about Battle Royales, but it's interesting that the studio was saved and can go on to make games like Star Wars Jedi, for instance. I don't think the same thing is going to happen with Bioware, though. Anthem was meant to be their Apex Legends, and it totally flopped. It goes on to say it plays like Inquisition with improved combat and UI.
Yeah, the combat in Inquisition was fine. I don't like the UI. I'm one of the few people who actually like the UI of Dragon Age 2. I really enjoyed that. I think it was the best UI of the three games. So, a lot of people disagree with me on that one. A lot of people have a lot of hatred for Dragon Age 2. But I think if you ask those same people, if they played the game all the way through, how did you enjoy the story itself? They're going to say, well, you didn't have as much choice in it. I'm going to say Dragon Age Origins had choices, but it had more illusion of choices than it had real choices. Because in the end, you were what you were. You were a character. You got to choose which character you were and for what origin you came, which it did choose, change how you interacted with different people. Yes. You became a Grey Warden and you took down the Archdemon. I mean, that's the end. Yes, you could survive it or not. The final battle. Different things you could do to put different people on the throne of Ferelden and different things. That's great. All those things were really amazing at the time. But in the end, you were a character who became a Grey Warden and took down the Archdemon. That was your character arc right there. You could not get out of that. You were locked into that. Dragon Age 2, you were a human survivor of what was going on in Ferelden, the blight and everything, who fled the land. You ended up in a small city state of Kirkwall, and you were locked into certain things. One of your two siblings, spoiler alert, perished. The other one became a Grey Warden, kind of thing. It is very, yeah. You had choices that you made within the game, but in the end, you were this survivor of the blight in this other city, treated as a refugee. Like a lot of the game was about kind of being a refugee, like it was. And that was kind of the social message of that. Nothing wrong with that. I didn't mind that at all. I didn't have an issue with it. But in the end, you were involved in the events, but unable to change the final event of the game. Okay. Just like in Origins, the final event was, the death of the Archdemon. That had to happen. And it had to happen because of your actions. Regardless of who struck the last blow and everything else. It was your actions in the game that caused that to happen. So I think Dragon Age Origins gets this pass because there's so much choice in it. Well, there is so much choice, but not in the actual gameplay. This choice is all out here, but the actual gameplay is straight line to the end. So people complain about Dragon Age 2. Well, it didn't make any difference. You didn't make any difference in the world. It's showing you a slice of the world at a certain time, in a certain time frame, at a certain period, in a certain place. And all those things that happen around you and to you and with you and through you all affect the greater world going on. As you got to see in Dragon Age Inquisition, a lot of that affected things very majorly going forward in the land of Thedas. People complain too much about Dragon Age 2. Oh, there wasn't enough choice. There was plenty of choice, actually. There was really plenty of choice, people. It wasn't that bad. What was I saying here? Yeah, so I liked, the combat of Inquisition. It wasn't that bad at all. I preferred the UI and stuff from Dragon Age 2. I thought that was the best.
UI, and I mean, who cares about that? If it plays like Inquisition, that is a fail. The game was really only going to pique my interest if it went back to Origins, but we all knew that.
Okay, so you're not an Inquisition fan, Estelden. So you're not a fan of the game, the one RPG of the year in 2014 or whatever it was, and sold millions of copies. I mean, so yeah, you're not interested in Inquisition. You don't even mention Dragon Age 2. I'm sure you're not interested in that. You're only interested in Origins. Well, then you're not really a fan of the franchise. You're just a fan of the one game. So I'm just going to throw that out there because I've played all the games. I own all the games, multiple copies. I've played them all. I've finished them all. I love them all. I'm a fan of the actual IP, the actual series. Okay, Stelden, maybe not so much.
That wasn't going to happen. Sadly, Baldur's Gate 3's success only happened well after this game was getting to what sounds like the polishing stage, so there was no chance they could take any influence from it whatsoever, which is pretty sad because the original Dragon Age Origins, it was influenced by Baldur's Gate, but they seemed to move away from that because they thought, oh, it's not commercial.
I mean, if you think that the original Baldur's Gate had the choices and freedom that Baldur's Gate 3 did, it did not. No, it didn't. It was a fun game to play. It was a little top down game, and it was a great game. I mean, it won awards for its time, but I mean, it's not Baldur's Gate 3, not even close.
Viable, and now they've been proved wrong. They're making crap like Inquisition doing something similar, and no one's really got.
Why are you saying Inquisition is crap? I think your opinion is just that, your opinion. It's clearly not based on reality, though. It's only based on your reality there, Estelden.
Going to be interested. So if they're going that way, again, it just sounds like the final.
As we do a little research. Dragon Age Inquisition came out in 2014. All right, let's go see. Came out. Frostbite 3 engine. Came out on PlayStation 3 and 4, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and Windows. Let's go down here. And let's look. Critical response. Dragon Age Inquisition received generally favorable reviews. Many critics regarded it as a significant improvement over Dragon Age 2 and helped revitalize the series. Look at some of the the review stores from publications. These are like gaming magazines and whatnot, right? So the Metacritic score for PC, 85 out of 100. For PS4, 89 out of 100. For Xbox One, 85 out of 100. Those are pretty damn good scores. Destructoid gave it 8.5 out of 10. Euro gave it 8 out of 10. Game Informer, 9.5 out of 10. GameSpot, 9 out of 10. Games Radar, 4 stars out of 5. That's like an 8 out of 10, I guess. IGN gave it 8.8 out of 10. Joystick gave it 5 out of 5. PC Gamer US gave it 87 out of 100. And Polygon gave it 9.5 out of 10. Sales debuted at number 5 in the UK in its first launch week. Sold almost the exact amount of launch week copies as 2011's Dragon Age 2. Dragon Age Inquisition is the most successful launch in Bioware history based on units sold. In addition to winning several awards at major events and ceremonies, it was selected by IGN, Ars Technica, Game Informer, Polygon, and Electronic Gaming Monthly as their Game of the Year in 2014. Not even RPG of the Year. I was wrong. It's the Game of the Year by 5 different publications. Also was nominated for Best PC Game here and did not win. Was nominated here for Best Design and Best Game, didn't win. Nominated for Excellence in Gameplay, Excellence in Technical Achievement, Excellence in Narrative, and Excellence in Design and Direction. Nominated for Direction in a Game Camera, Performance in a Drama Supporting, Song Original or Adapted, Use of Sound Franchise, Writing in a Drama, Game Franchise Roleplay. Woo! Look at all the awards it won. It won Best RPG, Game of the Year. Best Role-Playing Game, Game of the Year. Role-Playing Massive Multiplayer, Game of the Year. Game of the Year. Game of the Year. Art Direction Fantasy, 1. Costume Design, 1. Game Design Franchise, 1. Sound Editing and Game Cinema, they won. And Special Recognition Award, 1. So when Estelden says that Dragon Age Inquisition was crap, all that really means is he didn't enjoy the game. It was not crap. It was overwhelmingly a massive success, the most success BioWare has ever had, including better than Dragon Age Origins as far as their sales. So let that sink in there, Mr. Estelden. You know I appreciate you. You know I love your content. But you're wrong. All it is an opinion. Just your opinion.
Nail in the coffin. It does end saying the game is ending the Dragon Age franchise storyline, and
that's sad.
Makes sense no matter what.
That's sad because they had plans at one point for the next 2 games after this one written.
I don't think it means the Dragon Age series is finished. It's not like if the game actually sold well, they wouldn't just keep making them. I think the issue they've got is their big hook Dreadwolf, that refers to Solas, who is a character from Inquisition, a companion, who I believe ends up being a villain, and he's the big antagonist of Dreadwolf. I can't remember exactly, this was all back in 2013, 2014. I haven't gone near Inquisition since.
Wow. Doesn't even know the story.
Since I was disappointed. But the thing is, if you're not a hardcore Dragon Age fan, or you didn't play, say, the Inquisition DLC, you're not really going to be hooked on this story or really care about it. So that is just going to really limit the amount of people who are going to give a toss about.
You know how many people are online talking about this constantly? About Solus, about Dreadwolf, about Dragon Age? Clearly, Estelle, you don't know how many people are online talking about that constantly. Clearly, you don't. People, if I'm going to argue with the guy presenting the video, it's because I admit I am a fan of the Dragon Age series. It is, Thedas is my favorite, up to this point, is my favorite fantasy setting of all time. Now, once upon a time, I would have told you the Sword Coast in Dungeons and Dragons with the Baldur's Gate franchise was my favorite. Way back in the day, but even with Baldur's Gate 3 coming out being an amazing game, Thedas kicks its ass all over the place, people. All over the place. Thedas is the name of the world in Dragon Age. It's literally stands for the Dragon Age story. Thedas. They use it as kind of a place marker for the world and end up adopting it as the actual name.
About the story. So they've probably realized that, and they know if the franchise is going to survive beyond this, they have to kind of start fresh. They have to make a game where you can just jump in, no prior knowledge, and enjoy the role-playing game. I mean, you think Baldur's Gate 3 again, it does have some links back to 2 and 1, but you certainly don't have to have played those to enjoy and get into the story whatsoever. It was actually a big criticism before Baldur's Gate 3 came out or was close to releasing. People were worried it would have nothing to do with the old ones.
And to be fair, like Baldur's Gate 2 was like a direct sequel to Baldur's Gate 1. If you didn't play Baldur's Gate 1, Baldur's Gate 2 I don't think would have made a lot of sense, really.
But I think they did a decent job with that. There is also some bonus Mass Effect 4 news. The game is in pre-alpha. Poster guess is a 2030 release. Honestly, that is more ahead, I guess, of where I thought it would be. I honestly thought they were still in, like, just drawing things and having meetings discussing what they're going to do with the game. I know there was N7 Day where there was a tiny cinematic.
Okay, so I read this earlier. We went over it. I'm not going to keep you guys any longer. This video is starting to get awfully long. I do apologize. I've ranted some. I've gone on a few tangents here and talked about things because and looked things up because I needed to. I needed to set a few things straight when we're watching this video because Esteldon is giving his opinion and he's clearly not a fan of the Dragon Age series, of the Dragon Age IP. He's just a fan of Dragon Age Origins, which is fine. It was a great game. I get it. But, you know, not being a fan of Dragon Age 2 and not being a fan of Dragon Age Inquisition, I don't know how much you should really be talking about, you know, how the IP is floundering if you're yeah. It's not a floundering IP, it's a floundering company. It'll be a floundering IP if this game bombs. Yes. But until that happens, no. Everybody, this is possible leaks. Well, these are leaks, so whether or not they're true leaks or fake leaks, we don't really know. But it's certainly something to sit around the old computer monitor or console dining room table thing. I don't know, man. Whatever. Sit around and talk with your friends about with other people who like Bioware stuff. Maybe who like Mass Effect. Maybe who like Dragon Age. Maybe they're big Anthem fans. I don't know. And talk about what the future of this company is or could be or should be or might be. It's certainly a fun debate to have. It's kind of a scary debate if you're kind of hoping this company pulls it out of the fire, though, because it's really up in the air. It's really up in the air. And let's be honest, over the last few years, our views of AAA gaming companies have begun to shift. And that's not a bad thing, but it puts a lot of pressure on those companies now. However, again, the main pressure needs to be felt with Will we buy it or not? Are we going to buy it in advance? Are we going to buy it sight unseen? Are we going to wait till we know it's good before we buy it? Or are we going to wait and say, hey, it's crap, I'm not buying it at all, and save our money for something else? Those are the things that really put the pressure on AAA companies, okay? That's really the only thing in the end that does. So let's see how this one goes. These are interesting possible developments for sure. And I look forward to covering more of this news on Bioware, on Dragon Age Dreadwolf, on Mass Effect, on Dragon Age Reorigins. We'll discuss all this stuff in the future, I'm sure. From Misspelled Entertainment News, jump down below, leave a comment and a like. I do read all the comments. I respond to as many as possible. I'm really interested in your take. Just remember, be respectful to people. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.